Today on the audio hotline, we have a little bit of a comparison video, also kind of just like a which one should you get? And this is a competition, a battle between two siblings. It's a family feud in the studio today. We have the Lewitt LCT 440 Pure, which is the one you're listening to right now. And then we have the 440's little brother, the Lewitt LCT 240 Pro. One question that I do get asked, especially since I did do a review for the Lewitt 440, is which one of these microphones people should get. Now, when you ask a question like that, it all depends on your budget, what you're looking for, what you need. So yes, I do want to make this video a comparison, but also just more like a which one will work for you. But we'll get into all of those details here shortly, and while I'm hooking up the 240, how about you go ahead and just get mic'd? Well, now we have the 440 Pure and the 240 Pro, both plugged in to the Zoom F6, with the 440 being at plus 16 decibels and the 240 being at plus 18 decibels. Now, just as two really quick comments, I will have a banner down here telling you which microphone you are listening to, and also these comparisons and reviews can get a little bit lengthy, so I do have timestamps down in the description if you just want to navigate through what you want to see. Now, just to disclaim this, Lewitt did in fact send me both of these microphones to compare. They watched my review for the 440 Pure, and I guess they liked what they saw. That review is a little bit older, and during that first part of my YouTube journey, I was still trying to figure out how to do this whole thing. So I feel like I've gotten just like a tiny bit better since then, just a little bit though. Actually, I'm probably worse. I'm worse. And as I'm sure you can see, the 240 Pure does have its provided windscreen on, and the 440 actually has the pop filter that's provided on. Now, I don't really want to spoil the review for the 440, but I kind of have to for this to make sense. I really like the Lewitt LCT 440 Pure. I think it is an amazing microphone. If I remember correctly, I gave it pretty high praise, and that's part of the reason that I wanted to do this comparison to begin with. I wanted to see how the 240 stacks up and if it is still a really good option for people that maybe can't throw down nearly $300 for the 440. But speaking of price, the 240 Pro comes in at $149, while the 440 Pure comes in at $269. So I mean, you're talking a $120 difference between these microphones. So I really wanted to see if the 240 is worth the $150, if it's worth more than that or less than that. Now that we've rambled a little bit and talked about some pricing, let's go ahead and move on to what comes in the box with each of these microphones. The Lewitt LCT 440 Pure comes with a shock mount. Inside the mount of that shock mount, there is in fact a 5/8 to 3/8 inch microphone stand adapter. There is also a magnetic pop filter. The 440 does not only come with a pop filter, but it does also come with a Lewitt branded windscreen. The 440 comes with a slightly padded leather carrying and storage bag. It comes with a Lewitt sticker and documentation, and it also comes with the microphone itself, the Lewitt LCT 440 Pure. The Lewitt LCT 240 Pro comes with an adjustable microphone mount. Inside of that microphone mount, there is in fact a microphone stand adapter. This comes with a Lewitt branded windscreen, a slightly padded leather carrying and storage bag, a Lewitt sticker and some documentation, as well as the microphone itself, the Lewitt LCT 240 Pro. Now, everything that comes with each of these microphones, I think, is really nice. With that higher price tag of the 440 Pure, you definitely get some accessories that are just awesome. This shock mount is built really well. It's like a very sturdy plastic. And the pop filter that the 440 comes with being magnetic is really cool. It's a really awesome feature. Now, these leather bags that come with these microphones are absolutely amazing. They are by far the best storage bag that I've ever felt. Now, I do prefer the plastic storage case, that has the molded foam for the microphone on the inside, but I will say this is definitely the next best thing. And also on the inside of that bag, there's a material that I want to blanket out of it. I want to bathe in that stuff. It's so soft. Oh my gosh. Now, the adjustable mount on the Lewitt 240 Pro seems like it's a pretty big bummer compared to the shock mount over here, but I will say this mount itself is great. The fact that you can just loosen the knob and go up to down and also turn it pretty effortlessly and get the microphone wherever you need it. Now, when recording a guitar cabinet or some instrument that I know the mic stand isn't going to get hit, I will say that these mic mounts are by far the best. You can get that microphone in any position you want. It's absolutely fantastic. And when it comes to the microphone bodies on both of these, they're each amazing. Extremely strong grills, just all metal build. They feel awesome. And that's the interesting thing though, with the $150 microphone, you're not really missing out on microphone build quality at all. Like, they feel the same. So it's really nice that you don't miss out on that high grade build quality with the cheaper microphone. And just so you know, for the next little bit, I am going to switch the pop filter out for the provided windscreen on the 440, and the windscreens are in fact the same. Well, now that we've talked about accessories and build, now let's go ahead and nerd out and talk about some specs. The Lewitt LCT 440 Pure is a true 1-inch condenser microphone. This is a pressure gradient transducer that is externally polarized. This has a cardioid polar pattern, a sensitivity of 27.4 millivolts per Pascal, also considered negative 31.2 dBV. This has a dynamic range of 133 dBA, a max SPL of 140 decibels, an equivalent noise level of 7 dBA, an internal impedance of 110 ohms, a rated load impedance of 1000 ohms, a power requirement of plus 48 volts of phantom power, but that power can range from 44 volts to 52 volts. And this microphone does have a gold-plated 3-pin XLR connector. The LCT 240 Pro has a pressure gradient transducer that is permanently polarized. This condenser microphone has a transducer that is 0.67 inches in size. This has a cardioid polar pattern, a sensitivity of 16.7 millivolts per Pascal, or also known as negative 35.5 dBV. This has a dynamic range of 123 dBA, a max SPL of 142 decibels, an equivalent noise level of 19 dBA, an internal impedance of 100 ohms, and a rated load impedance of 1000 ohms. This also requires 48 volts of phantom power that can also range from 44 to 52 volts, and the 240 Pro also has a gold-plated 3-pin XLR connector. Here are the frequency response graphs for the 440 and the 240. As you can see, they are slightly different, but they do have some similarities. With the top graph being the 440, you can see that it does have a flatter frequency response. Both of the mids on these microphones are relatively flat, and they both do have high-end boosts. Now, to really compare these frequency response graphs, let's just put them on top of each other. The 240 is the red, and the 440 is the green. You can see that there is one specific area that the 440 does boost a little bit more, and that's right around that 4 kilohertz mark, and there is slightly a little bit more of a boost around 12 kilohertz. But around 8 kilohertz to 10 kilohertz is really where the 240 is boosting. And this graph clearly shows how much more of a low end the 440 really does have. But even though that 240 does nearly have an 8 decibel boost around that 8 kilohertz, it's not as boosted as some microphones that I've seen. The 440 is definitely less boosted than some of its competitors. So when it comes to these microphones, not only are the accessories different, there are definitely some notable specs that are quite a bit different from each other. Now, one of the notable differences is that the 440 can be considered a large diaphragm condenser microphone. Now, the 240 Pro isn't. The 440 Pure does have a 1-inch capsule. Now, the 240 Pro only has a 0.67-inch capsule. It is interesting though, because 1 inch or bigger is considered large diaphragm, and to my knowledge, it was always a 1/2 inch or smaller was considered a small diaphragm condenser microphone. So the 240 Pro kind of sits in the middle somewhere. Now, there are some advantages to large diaphragm condenser microphones, and there are advantages to smaller diaphragm condenser microphones. Some notable ones are that large diaphragm condenser microphones usually do a better job with noise. And that's also where a different spec is affected by the capsule, and that is the self-noise. The 440 Pure has an amazing, incredible 7 dBA. That is seriously so quiet, and it's one of the reasons that I love like the Rode NT1 and NT1A is that they are super quiet also. I love me a quiet mic, I'll tell you what. Shut up, Mike. So the 440 Pure having the 7 dBA noise floor compared to the 19 dBA noise floor on the 240 Pro. Now 19 dBA isn't awful, especially at this price point. It's honestly fine. Would I like it a little bit lower? Yeah, but there are other microphones like the AT2020 that I think has even a higher noise floor level than this, and it's fine. But there aren't only advantages when it comes to large diaphragm. Smaller diaphragm condenser microphones also have advantages. They can tend to have a little bit more high-end, a nice transient response, and are usually a little bit more consistent in their pickup pattern compared to large diaphragm. Another big reason, aside from noise, that people go with large diaphragm, though, is it just has this, like, larger than life, like studio sound. So there are absolutely reasons to get both. What works for one person may not work for another, but me personally, I do like large diaphragm on vocals, but for instruments, I usually prefer small diaphragm. But like I said, this isn't a true small diaphragm. It's kind of in the middle. Bottom line, though, the difference between these microphones is the capsule. Now, speaking of capsules, the 440 Pure does have the externally polarized capsule, while the 240 Pro has the permanently polarized transducer, also known as electret. For some people, electret kind of turns them off, but honestly, there are some great sounding electret microphones. But enough talk about the capsules. What we should be focusing on is the sound of these microphones. So let's go ahead and jump into some testing. Now during this test, I will use the windscreen. I'll also use the pop filter, as well as not using any protection at all. Reckless, I know. But I just want to show you every single possibility of how these microphones could sound. The lower third of the video will explain any test that I'm doing. Let's go ahead and kick it off with a proximity effect test. Now if you get really close to the 440 Pure without any protection on, here's how it's going to sound. Now if you get really close to the 240 Pro without any protection on, here is how it's going to sound. Now we're protecting that college scholarship and using protection on the 440 Pure. Here's how it's going to sound. Now we got some protection on the 240 Pro, and here's how it sounds. And now I'm really close to the 440 Pure with the pop filter on. This next part will get loud. I'm going to send some plosives right into these microphones. Peter Piper picked a patch of pickled peanuts. 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 Now, if you want to pick up one of these microphones for your game and YouTube channel and you're going to be click-clacking on a keyboard, probably not the best bet because it's going to pick up a lot of that. It's gonna do that, but here's how it sounds. Now we have the same keyboard behind the 240 Pro, and here is how it sounds with these loud MX Cherry Blues. Now we're gonna take this polar pattern test one step further with some white noise. Now here's just a real quick distance test. This is me about 2.5 feet away from the 440. Now here's just another quick distance test, but this is with the 240, once again about 2.5 feet away. Now as I was recording this, I noticed a pretty big difference between what the shock mount was able to do versus just the mount. Right now I'm just going to tap on my desk just right in between these microphones. They have the same rounded base stand on, no great protection from shock or anything. Even on the meter that I'm looking at right now, it looks like the 440 Pure is about 10 decibels quieter. Here is how the Lewitt LCT 440 Pure sounds with some post-processing on it. I am just very simply using a high-pass filter, no additional EQ whatsoever. I have a little bit of a compressor on it and a tiny bit of limiting. If I use anything else, I will let you know down here. Now here is the 240 Pro with the exact same post-processing on it, just a simple high-pass filter and some compression and limiting. And just as a quick reference point, here's the post-processing with the windscreen on. And now here is the 240 Pro with the windscreen on. And now here is the 440 Pure with the pop filter on. Now I just want to do a real quick noise floor level test between the 440 and the 240. Right now I'm at plus 20 decibels on the Zoom F6, and here is how the noise floor level sounds between the 240 and the 440. Now I'm going to boost both of these signals in post so you can hear it a little bit better. How many decibels I boosted the signal will be on the screen. Well, now that we've gone through the basics, we talked about what comes with these microphones, we went through the specs, and we even tested it out. Now that we've gotten all that out of the way, now I'm going to get to my review, my opinion of these two microphones. Even though I have been using these microphones for the last little bit and testing them out, and I've been using the 440 for a long time, I wanted to get an even clearer idea of the similarities and the differences. And you know, when it comes to their sound, they're actually pretty similar. No, they don't sound identical. Definitely the capsule and the size of the capsule in these microphones has a big part in the differences that they do have. Now, I do feel like the 440 does have that true 1-inch, big studio sound. And I do think the 240 isn't far off from that, but it definitely does have a little bit more of a narrow sound, which isn't bad and can honestly be better for some people. And that's the thing though, is I can't really tell you which one you should get. All I can really tell you is that both of these microphones are absolutely fantastic at their price points. I do think, however, overall, the 440 coming in at $269, the sound it having, the noise floor level that it has, the accessories that come with it, I do think it is ever so slightly a little bit more of like a steal compared to the 240. But that is not saying anything bad about the 240. The 240 is very impressive. Whenever I stand up in the studio, he gets pissed off because he usually sits behind me during these reviews. So he feels a little bit betrayed right now. So I might have to hold him. I do think a big part of that price difference is the accessories alone, and obviously just the difference in capsule size. I mean, having that really nice shock mount over just a regular mount, and also having an option between the pop filter and the windscreen, those are both great things to have, and honestly, getting a really nice shock mount and a nice pop filter would probably cover this price difference, or at least be really close. So actually, in order to buy this shock mount in particular, it is $40 by itself. And then getting the Lewitt pop filter is actually $32 by itself. So if you were to get the 240 Pro and you eventually did want to get, a nice shock mount and a pop filter, to get these Lewitt ones that are included with the 240, it would cost you an extra $72. If you were to add that $72 worth of accessories, not including tax or shipping, we're talking a $48 difference. In my opinion, and for what I like, I think that the true 1-inch capsule and that 7 dBA noise floor, that's worth the $48 right there. And breaking down that accessory price and everything, I feel like the prices make sense on both of these. I can't be the one to choose which one you like and which one works for you better. All I can really say though is that I think that both of these are absolutely worth their cost. But yeah, when it comes to build quality, accessories, and sound and everything, they're good. So let me kind of summarize how I feel about these microphones. The last review that I did for the 440 Pure, I gave the microphone a grade of an A. And actually, I do stand by that grade. Now, I do feel a pretty similar way about the 240 Pro, just not as strong. But it's not because I don't like this microphone and that I couldn't use it or anything. I just think that you get a little bit more for your money with the 440. But the 440 and the 240 do sound similar. I do obviously give the edge to the 440 when it comes to sound. There's just something about that larger than life sound. And I do feel like with the 240 Pro, you lose a little bit of that. But I do think that the 240 Pro still has a really great sound and can be used for different applications and sound really great. In that price difference, you are absolutely paying for, a true condenser versus an electric condenser. But aside from the 240 Pro being an electric microphone, I do think it still sounds very solid. And the grade that I would give it is probably a B+. But needless to say, you can get great results with both. Just pick which one fits your budget, fits your needs, and go with that. Thank you all for watching this review/comparison of the Lewitt LCT 440 Pure and the 240 Pro. I hope that it helped you out, gave you some clarification on which microphone you should get, but most of all, I hope you had fun. Stay tuned for a lot more reviews and comparisons, and if there is a microphone that you want me to compare to one of these, let me know in the comments. Just to let all of you know, if you do want to help out this channel, I do actually have some merch available. It's down below. And actually, one thing that my BFF of all time said, best friends forever of all time, that my BFF. There we go. His name's Sky Crystal, if you want to check out his music or anything. But he said, dude, I'm waiting for the time that you are going to release a Pickled Peanuts shirt. Little did he know, I had already been working on the design. So if you're interested in rocking a Pickled Peanuts shirt, it's coming. But seriously, thank you all for watching. I really do appreciate every single one of you for checking the audio hotline out, and for all of you that subscribe. I love you. But thank you all for watching the audio hotline. I'll see you audio nerds next time. I'm going down instead of back. That hurts my hip. Oh, my hip!